Bienvenidos a Historias y Huellas, les saluda Ana Mariela Rivera, contenta de nuevamente estar con ustedes el día de hoy. Today we're going to have an amazing guest, someone I'm so looking forward to talk to. His name is Eduardo Suárez. Eduardo is the Director of Culture and Resiliency and Community Engagement at the Minnesota National Guard. Eduardo, welcome. I am so thrilled to have this conversation with you today.
I've been looking forward to it for a long time, so it's just great to be here.
Wonderful. I know I just introduced you and I named your current role, your leadership role, but how would you tell us something that is not in your bio? Something you want to share with our audience about you that perhaps we won't see in your bio.
Oh gosh, well, it depends what version bio you have.
Okay.
You know, I used to be a competitive marksman. Mm-hmm. I was on the U.S. Army shooting team, the U.S. shooting team. I'm an Olympian from the 1980 Olympics.
Wow.
I was an alternate, but I traveled the world, competed all over the world, representing the United States. And
when was this?
I started when I was 16 years old. Yeah, and I competed for about 12 years at a pretty high level. I was a resident at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs.
What wonderful experience.
Yeah, I met my wife there.
Is she an Olympian too?
No, she worked in the dining hall. She served me breakfast and lunch every day.
Oh, that's where that love story started.
It did.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
So Eduardo, today I would like to start with your early years. Tell us a bit about where you grew up. Take us back to those early years. What are some of those memories and some of those experiences, like the people who raised you, that influenced that early part of your life?
Well, I was born and raised in San Jose, California. Yeah, and I'm one of 5 kids. I have 2 older sisters, an older brother. I have a twin sister, Alicia. In fact, all my sisters and brothers, they all have names with A. Ana, Amanda, Alberto, Alicia.
What happened
y Eduardo.
With you? You broke the mold.
I did.
Yes.
I think my mother ran out of names that someone else didn't already have, and so they named me after my dad's brother. His name is Eduardo as well.
Eduardo.
Yeah.
Well, and so those early years happened in San Jose, California.
They did, yeah.
What role did it play, those early years, in forming your cultural identity, perhaps? I'm thinking your mom's from Mexico. Tell us a bit about that, those early years, and how that's informed your identity as a Latino man now.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's everything.
It's everywhere.
It's everything. So Mom was technically born in the United States, but she was raised in Mexico. Yeah, during the Depression, the family moved back to Mexico. And so she lived, the last place she lived was León, Guanajuato. Was where she lived for about 20 years.
So the majority of her earlier, chunk of life happened in Mexico.
Exactly. And then they re-immigrated back to the United States through Santa Barbara and made their way up to San Jose, where she eventually met my father.
And your father is
he was
second generation.
He's a first generation American. Yep. So his father immigrated from Mexico. He worked the railroad system through the San Joaquin Valley. He had a little store. He would provide food and provisions for all the migrant workers that worked the farm fields.
This is your grandfather?
This is my grandfather.
Wow. What was his name?
Well, his name is Alberto.
Alberto.
Yeah, so my brother is Alberto Suarez the third.
The third.
Yeah, wow. So my father is the junior. And so, but yeah, I think our family started off like many traditional Latino families. We actually started on the east side of San Jose. We were around a lot of family. My mother's a Padilla, so all the Padillas lived on the east side of San Jose. And for my early years, up until about the first grade, I remember, all the parties and the fiestas and the music and the food and the culture. It was rich. Like, that's what I connected with. And then we moved to the west side of San Jose.
Which is a very different
environment.
Much different,
a much wider community. And it was different. And I think I started to kind of almost separate from our culture just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, because I wasn't.
How old were you at the time when that happened?
About the first grade. Yeah,
Okay.
and so from the first grade on, I was probably less in touch with my culture, my family, because all my cousins live on the other side of town. Yeah. But traditions remained, right?
In the
Music,
home,
the
probably.
food. Yeah. My mom spoke Spanish in the house. She encouraged us not to speak Spanish. I know people think that's shocking, but it's true.
Well, it's not shocking when you understand the context of the times at the time.
Yeah.
I think many Latino families experience, or people who grew up at the time, experience that loss of language because at the time, parents were trying to protect their kids.
Yes.
By not having them stand out
Yes.
or be discriminated against. And that is, unfortunately, that is one of the consequences that led to the loss of language for a lot of Latinos.
Yeah, it's true. And mom was trying to protect us, and she didn't want us to be labeled or singled out or feel differently. I understand Spanish pretty well.
You can understand it.
I can, because mom still speaks it.
Is that still her?
Well, in her late age, she goes between English and Spanish a lot. And then when I visit, I'll do English and Spanish as well with her. Yeah. And so, but again, growing up, I mean, all those traditions remained. The food, the music, all of it. I loved it, and I miss it. I miss it. And being here in Minnesota, I find myself trying to bring it back little by little, because it's a part of who I was growing up.
Right? And we do kind of come back to some of those memories and traditions many times. To later in life. Eduardo, now that we're talking about some of those earlier years, I'm thinking about, if you can think about an event. You mentioned, for instance, this move from a very Latino-centric, maybe, environment in California to another one where that was not the case. And some of its impact, too. Maybe there were good things and some things that were lost. But I'm thinking, usually in childhood or early, in our adolescence, sometimes there are things that happen, events that happen in our lives that kind of change the trajectory of what comes after. And I'm wondering if you can think about like an event or a shift that either you made or your family made that you think now you think back and you understand that was a catalyst or something that, changed.
Well, I would go back, and I would go back before I was even born. I would say my father was in the Air Force. He served active duty for about 5 years, and then he finished the Air Force and used his GI Bill to go to college. And he got a degree in business and finance through San Jose State. He went to night school. He worked at night at the cannery, and he got his degree in less than 4 years. So I think my father set the course for a future that would have been different otherwise. And because he did that, and I didn't learn till later on what Dad had done in his young adult life. But really, you think about it, that degree set him on a path for success.
Absolutely. And for the generations to come.
Yes, he changed our generation. We often talk about how do we generate generational wealth and success. It starts somewhere, and
somebody
Dad,
making a different decision.
And my father made that decision, and it changed. I know it changed the course of our lives.
For yours and your siblings.
And he showed us through his work ethic, and Mom raising 5 kids. So that work ethic, right,
was there all along. The
family, that dynamic. She kept it all together, right?
She was
and I think that's part of the Latino culture, right?
A woman usually does that. Yes. Now, yes, absolutely. I'm thinking about too, those people that, because of those people, we somehow have different opportunities. And you're thinking about your dad. And I'm also thinking about the time that this was a time in history, right? Certainly for immigrants and Latinos, where that was not the common path.
No.
For someone who was of service in the military, the Air Force. You mentioned your dad, but then use that educational benefit to go to college, right? later in life, probably.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't right out of college for your father. That is amazing. I think that, I don't know if your dad knew like how powerful that choice was going to be, not only for in his life, like you said, but for generations to come. And sometimes it's interesting to think about that and think about like what choices, examples, opportunities we're taking that are going to influence and change the trajectory of our children, our children's children, our community as a whole, right? Like sometimes we don't have that dimensional thinking, but it is really when you look into time and you look back and you realize, oh my gosh, there are those decisions, those people, those sacrifices, those decisions that were made that put us in a different path.
And I think mom and dad, they were like genuinely invested in the family, you know, and making sure that we were, you know, parents do the best to guide you, advise you, be examples for you, and they never let up. I was not the best student in school. I was actually,
Let's talk about that, Eduardo, because that is hard for me to believe. Seeing the success you've had, seeing all the roles you have had, sometimes we don't talk about those early years or some of that foundational period and how different maybe it could have looked like. Tell us more about that period. What do you mean you were not a good student?
I was not a good. School was hard for me. I had to work really hard at it. You know, I graduated high school, the bottom third of my class. You know, I graduated.
You
know,
did
I got
it.
through. I felt high school was a big inconvenience for me, something I had to do.
And you didn't enjoy that?
There were parts that I did enjoy, but I wasn't the best student. I was good at things that I really was interested in doing. Like I was really good at drafting. So I got into drafting. I took 3 years of drafting in high school.
In high school?
Yeah,
Okay.
I won a blue ribbon first place at this California State Fair for a drawing that I did.
So those things that you liked and that you were interested in, you did really well.
I did really well. But the rest of it, no, math was hard. Everything was just, I just had to work harder.
Academics,
Yeah.
that kind of...
And I had friends who didn't have to work that hard. You know, I never understood why, but I always had to work at everything.
Yeah.
Nothing came easy to me.
To you.
Yeah.
Do you think that shaped your work ethic, perhaps? The fact that you did have to work harder to learn or to do certain things that didn't come as easily?
You know what really changed my life, talk about pivotal moments, when my father introduced me to the shooting sports. I don't know if I said before, but
Your father was a competitive marksman.
he was, yeah. He shot for the Air Force, and he shot in college. And one night, I'm sure my mom was sitting there one day thinking, I don't like the friends that he's hanging out with. You know, maybe
In high school?
Yeah, in
When
high
you were
school.
in high school?
And so maybe you should take Eddie to the range and just get him interested in something else. And so, as a diversion, my dad started shooting again with me, only for the reason to get me away from my friends. And lo and behold, I had a gift for it. I mean, I ended up being really good at it. That wasn't the goal. The goal was just to
get you out
away,
of the environment,
out of the
give
environment,
you another activity.
Yeah, and so I graduated high school, went right to the Liberty Training Center in Colorado Springs. But because of that, I met people who were my mentors and my coaches and helped me find a part of me that maybe I hadn't tapped into before.
What was that part? How would you describe, or what were some of those traits that maybe you already had, but because you were a different learner?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
earlier in our pre-conversation, we were talking about neurodivergence, right? Like some brains are different. Some of us learn differently. I will certainly put myself in that category. But I'm thinking about that and how sometimes those leadership traits, let's say, look different when you are younger, and sometimes are not understood or necessarily valued. What are some of those traits that you were able to then not only develop, but to recognize and grow in yourself?
Part of it was the art of visualization. And in competitive sports, a lot of it is visual, and it's a mental game. They taught me how to visualize, me being successful, winning the competition, visualizing me being successful. And I never had to do that as a young person. I never thought to even, why would I want to do
that?
What
Even,
is that?
right?
But I think through that and goal setting and just building confidence that you could do something that was bigger than yours, it was hard, And I always said, I failed more than I succeeded in competitive shooting, right? That also didn't come easy to me. But I have many moments of great success, but there's also many moments of failing along the way.
And isn't that also part of that journey? I mean, I think that most competitive sports, players or people, or even in leadership, yes, there are wins and significant periods where you kind of move up or whatever, but oftentimes those are the least common. And the most common are those moments where we didn't get the positions we wanted, we didn't get to win, but we learn and we draw a lot of learning from those experiences as well.
And I would say setting the bar really high. Had I not done that, I wouldn't have accomplished all the things trying to get there, right? And I think people underestimate themselves. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yes, of course. Like, I've heard this quote somewhere or something where if you're not scared by how big your dreams are, then maybe you're not dreaming big enough, right? And that's contrary to sometimes how we set the bar kind of too close or sometimes low, because setting that bar higher sometimes makes us feel scared, a sense of like, oh, that's impossible. But
there's empowerment if you're setting the bar for yourself. There isn't a narrative telling you what you can and can't achieve. I was my biggest worst enemy myself. Like if anything limited my ability, it was me. But I can live with that. But I don't think others had that opportunity. I think others succumbed to the narrative that maybe was being painted for them. And I was lucky to have mentors and people to show me that
help you.
It's all me, right? And that was part of what Mom and Dad taught. It's like, hey, you have to work for it. You have to work for it. And they were just
like you expected it. You didn't expect things to come easy or were given to you.
No.
That was a belief system that you inherited and you put it into practice, I suppose.
Maybe later in life than my parents wanted me to, right? But I was slow to get there. But I think through competitive shooting, opened the door to active duty military service. It opened the opportunity to have college paid for. Like I was not ready for college out of high school.
You didn't go to high school college right out of...
No. I was almost 26 when I went to college. So our life was much different. It was. Got married relatively young, but we didn't go to, we didn't start a career. So after college, we didn't start a family till later in life. We did everything a little differently.
A little different.
Yeah, but I do believe I was ready at those moments when I had made those decisions along the way. And I tell my kids, you don't have to, again, there's a narrative or an expectation that people do,
this is when you do this,
you do this, and I'm like, no. It doesn't have to be that way for you, and I'm a living proof you don't have to follow it that way either.
What a gift. What a gift that is for your children. But I'm thinking too, as leaders, right, to also instill that autonomy and that more expansive and adaptive way of thinking about what works for you has to be at your pace, given who you are, right? So it all comes back to like that internal awareness and knowledge and respecting that and honoring that. That's why it's so important to really understand our own story, our own narrative so that we can, operate from a place of owning that narrative and shaping that narrative as opposed to letting an external narrative define how and when we do things. But unfortunately, that's not always the way it is or the way it goes for a lot of people. So to have that awareness, to have someone tell you, like in this case, you telling your kids, hey, it's okay. You don't have to do things this or that way. You figure it out, you go at your own pace, you do it your way.
And the message I tell them, just live your life with purpose. I think that's the most important thing, because my story is all been purposeful, driven, goal-oriented, almost to a fault. But
Well, because if you don't know yourself well, if you make decisions out of pleasing others or fulfilling those external expectations, that sense of self doesn't grow, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be less likely to have that sense of purpose, because that sense of purpose comes from knowing what's important for us, who we are, what we align with. So talking about that, I'm wondering about how that sense of purpose became clearer and clearer to you, because I think that is an ever evolving, right? Awareness. It develops over time. But for you, how have you discovered that or gotten in touch with that in yourself?
well, I think that purpose, whatever it happens to be, I think it depends on where you are in your life. I mean, I have many periods in my life where maybe that purpose and that reason was different. Now, today, I'm very reflective of what I've done in the past and where I'm going next. And I think that purpose for me it's very personal at this point, but that purpose for me is, what can I do to give back? That's my drive right now. And even though people say that when you wear the uniform and you serve, that you're already giving back, but I think there's more. I do. I think people in uniform bring something to their community that most others don't bring. Our life experiences in serving, the leadership traits that we learn, right?
Receive.
Yeah, and receive. I think we have a lot to give back to the community. And my purpose right now is really focus on what is it that I'm going to do once I take this thing off, right? And the impact that I want to make.
Oh, that's a beautiful place to be, I think, right? Because I hear that you are thinking about what are the experiences, what is the learning that I have had along the way, and what's next for me, and how do I want to give back? So what do you envision, Eduardo? what I'm curious about, what excites you? What dreams do you continue to build and have? And thinking about that next chapter for you as well.
Yeah, I completed the Humphrey Policy Program 2022, 2023. So I'm an alumni of that year group. That really was a catalyst for me thinking about my purpose moving forward.
How beautiful. Tell me how it helped. What did you get from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, prior to that, many of us in the military kind of live in our own world, right? The military is, I'm a full-time person, so I work full-time for the National Guard. It's been my life full-time since 2008. It's kind of what I know. But the Humphrey Policy Program made me realize there's an entire world around me. And while I think maybe I was doing all of this work kind of in a silo, I realized that we're actually quite connected in so many ways. That the military shared values intersect with values across, different sectors, communities. Exactly. And so the policy program, you realize that that there's so many things that need to be, addressed, fixed, corrected.
At a more systemic level?
Perhaps. I just think that we're military, we're problem solvers. They teach us how to solve complex problems. And in that cohort of people, I realized that I had a role there, that I could leverage my experience and background and do something beyond the uniform. And that's what, for me, and it made me question, what does it mean to serve, really serve? And we're unique.
Different ways.
In different ways. Well, and the National Guard's different, right? Because we're citizen soldiers. That means that we wear this on the weekends for most of us, and then Monday through Friday, we have a civilian career, we have a family, we have many lives, right? And we have to balance all that. But people who are the Minnesota Guard are in every community across Minnesota. So we're interacting with community all the time. But I felt like after that experience, like, now how do I take that, knowing that, and what do I do with it? It was like a calling for me. And,
that's beautiful.
And so what does that look like for me? I can just tell you this. Whatever it's going to be, it needs to improve the lives of people.
Of others.
Others. And we'll see.
Bottom line, it has to have that purpose.
Purpose, yeah. I'm not interested in a paycheck afterwards. I'm not interested in... it needs to be purposeful, meaningful, and impactful.
Because that's what fulfills you too.
Yeah.
And I think that going back to the whole purpose definition or understanding, I think there are essential, and when I say essential, I mean it has to do with your essence, with who you are intrinsically, and those values that guide you maybe. And I'm sure if you think back, even at your earliest memory, that value of service and your well-being connected to a collective well-being was probably there. But sometimes, we kind of forget. When I think about my own life experience, I think about those earlier memories, and I see that. Now I look back and I see that. But then we kind of lose touch, and then life happens and things happen. But the more you know yourself, and the more you honor, because sometimes knowing that essential parts of our being is going to put you in, how can I say this? Like, sometimes we have different expectations. Like we were talking about the external expectation. And sometimes we place more value to those external expectations. Sometimes our internal and essential values may not align so well with other external values that we too may hold, right? Like what you were saying, a paycheck is not, I don't want that to be
the reason,
or money is not a driver. But many of us have grown up, especially coming from immigrant backgrounds. What is success? What does success look like? Oh, the house, the jobs, and that can sometimes be that main driver or narrative. But if you look down inside, and you may see that maybe it's different for you. And sometimes reckoning that or finding that sometimes we have to let go of some things to really focus and tune into what's truly essentially important for us.
But I do think that changes in your life. I mean, I guess I get where I am now, as I'm less than a year out from retiring. I'm very reflective. I'm thinking a lot about the past, about the future. But even today, I'm involved in things. President for a small nonprofit that raises money for
What is that nonprofit?
It's called Shoot for the Troops, and we do a shotgun sporting clays event twice a year, and the money goes towards veteran organizations that address homelessness and mental health and a number of other things. And then because of the policy program, I'm on the board of directors for the Citizens League, because I'm also interested in working across people, across differences, right?
That's
like
what
I think
we need the most
I know we
these
need
days.
it, but I need that.
You
I need to
need
know
that
that
for
it's
yourself.
there. I do, because I believe in it. You know,
Right.
the military has taught us what it means to collaborate and work together. Think about it. The military is a cross section of society. There's so many faces that wear this uniform, experiences and backgrounds and culture, all that comes together. But it's pretty remarkable on how we can build a team around each other across differences towards one common goal, right?
How do you find that commonality? How do you find that? But I think, to your point of the importance of diversity and tolerating difference. And I say tolerating because many times difference is uncomfortable.
It can be.
It can be.
Sure.
It can be, because it has to do too with growth.
Yeah.
And growth and learning, if you're really growing and learning, you're not going to be super comfortable. You have to, you're pushing past your limitations.
You have to get outside your own echo chamber, and like I seek out the differences. I'm drawn to it.
You're drawn to it, naturally.
Just more so than ever.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just talking now, current in my life. I feel like I'm very comfortable around people who are not like me at all. It's very intentional.
That's something you seek intentionally.
I do. I find out richness in it. I mean, my life is more rich because of it. And so, and again, my military experience informs me, because that's who we are. We are different people, right? Formed around a common goal, set of values, a mission, an ideology. It's the military. And we all come together, right? And so I could take that and I could take it somewhere else, right?
And the key, from what I hear you talking about this, is finding that commonality too. Not just a difference, right?
Yeah.
But also, what are some of those things that we share, and that we can have a common goal around?
And it's there. It's always been there, right? It's easy to find reasons to not, but there's so much more that brings us together than separates us. And I think, like you said, more than ever, we need that.
Yes, we do.
And I'm drawn to that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you do, because I think about the future of leadership, or thinking about like healthy leadership, and particularly in our community, for our community. And I think we need to talk about that, and we need to have that mindset too, because we can all get very into our own spaces, an echo chamber, like you said, and lose touch and operate from like this silo mentality that I think can slow down that progress, common progress. And of course, sometimes you have to be uncomfortable. Sometimes you have to train that part of yourself.
You have to challenge yourself too. You do. Yeah.
And I hear that this fellowship program was really helpful for you in sort of being more intentional with that and learning ways of doing that.
It was a pivotal moment for me. It was. Yeah.
What made you decide to do that? Or how did you hear about this program? Or I'm thinking about in terms of leadership development, right? Sometimes, like, how do people find out, oh, this is something that you could do that could help you? Did you hear it from someone? Did somebody who had done it recommended it to you? Like, how did that come about?
The Minnesota National Guard has actually been funding this since about 2008.
This program. And this is...
We send 2 people every year to the program.
To the program.
We do. So it was already part of our culture to say that we encourage people to apply for this. Internally, we select 2 people, and then they go to the next selection process, and then the Humphrey program picks the entire cohort. So I just had heard about it from friends, and they had said that how enlightening it was for them, and they kind of knew kind of how I was wired and thought you'd be a good candidate, like I'd be good. So I was encouraged to apply. Yeah, one of my mentors and sponsors is the one who encouraged me to do that.
That's wonderful. And this is the second time during today's interview that you mention the role of mentors that in your life. What can you say about that, finding mentors for you and how it's shaped and helped you and ground you? And what do you think about the future in terms of the future of mentoring, in terms of helping us develop leaders?
Yeah, I would say, going back to my years in competitive shooting, I had a coach. A coach in a lot of ways was my mentor. So that's the first time I kind of had that experience where someone was there to help guide you and advocate for you. But mentorship and sponsorship are two different things.
What are some of the differences?
Well, a sponsor is someone who advocates for you when you're not in the room. Like, who's talking about Anna when you're not there? That's a sponsor.
That's a sponsor.
That's a mentor is someone who interacts with you, right? There's a mentor and mentee relationship.
It's a relationship.
It's a relationship. I think a lot of folks think it's just going to happen. You have to seek out mentorship, and whether you're in a culture and environment where that's encouraged or it's, there's a deliberate mentoring program, irrespective of that, you have to seek that out. And I always tell people, at least on the military side, find someone who is in your profession of arms, and then find some folks who are outside of that, right? And challenge your mentoring to get different perspectives. A mentor should give you honest feedback, right? Honest criticism, help you give advice on your path and where you're going, right?
Help you grow in that way.
Exactly. And I couldn't be where I am today without, I've had a handful of mentors in my military career that really have helped me. And I've had sponsors who've advocated for me when I'm not there. You kind of need both.
Oh, you do need both.
You really do both. But I think mentorship's really, really important. I don't know how it works in the civilian world, but in the military world, for me,
it was highly encouraged and maybe part of the culture.
It is part of the culture. Yeah. But again, you have to seek it out. It's not going to land on your lap. No one's going to give it to you.
What suggestions would you give people, say, who may not see themselves as in a leadership position, or as someone who has something important to give back? What would you say to someone in this situation, and in particular, in how they can seek that mentoring? Because sometimes we're not taught to ask for support or guidance or how to develop relationships that could maybe later turn into mentoring relationships.
So I think there's two ways you can do it. I think professionals should belong to professional organizations. So if you're a nurse, an engineer, pick a profession, get involved in a professional association, right?
Okay.
Like, invest in your career, in your profession.
And yourself.
And through that, you'll build a network of people and professionals. You'll find some maybe you aspire to be. You can find a mentor that way. Some companies have employer resource groups or ERGs. Another opportunity, get involved in one, right? Because typically you're going to have an executive champion, a senior VP in there, perhaps. You'll have other coworkers, a chance to network, right? You got to put yourself out there.
You have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
That's right. And in putting yourself out there, I'm also thinking about service. Sometimes I want a mentor. I want this. I want that. And we don't always think about how to give, especially when you're early on in your career. But in my experience, it's in those positions where I have also thought about, like, oh, this is ways in which I could give back, or I could be of service or something, that I have found some of those connections. So sometimes not only thinking about what we can receive or what we need, but putting ourselves out there, do something. join that, organization, volunteer at this or that, and naturally you are going to be in those situations or spaces where some of these mentoring opportunities can evolve.
Well, it's a good point. This is why I encourage people, hey, step out your comfort zone, maybe look to a nonprofit, try to get on their board of directors, put yourself in the space, put yourself, and like I always tell people, look, if you're unhappy with something, right, you can go on social media and have your little rant on there, or get in the trenches and get involved, right? If you really want to advocate for change and something that you believe in, that you're passionate about, well, then get in the fight, right?
And like I heard someone say this, but if you've been talking about a problem, a societal problem, researching it, posting about it for more than 2 or 3 weeks, and you haven't found a way to help address that issue that you're complaining about or that you don't like, or that then something's not working. So yes, it's so easy to, especially these days, to complain and add to the dissatisfaction that there is in the world. That's easy. It doesn't take a lot of effort or imagination or creativity, but trying to think about ways in which we could all have a small piece into being of service or changing something or addressing a problem that we are seeing in our society and our communities. That's harder, but it's the only way to.
But there's lots of ways to do that. You don't have to. Some folks are fearful of committing. It's like even the smallest gesture of something, whether it's being on a board of directors or volunteer for a fundraiser, or think about how you can give that time and your skills back to something that you want to see a positive change or outcome in. You don't have to get involved and start drafting legislation. And I mean, the scale is huge. But I just think for people, it's like, hey, get involved, right? Get involved in something, whether it's, the Latino community or something bigger, it doesn't matter. But the one thing the policy program taught you is that the ability to influence policy is just an arm's length away from you.
Unlike what we often think, that only policy makers, lawmakers, people with law degrees or whatever. It's
more accessible than you realize. And that's the one thing that opened my eyes. Like, I had no idea. It was right there all along.
I really appreciate that piece of advice, because I think that for many of us, that's what we've been taught to believe. But opening that horizon and thinking about ways in which that could be a possibility. Any citizen can maybe influence change in that way. That's helpful to know and to think about. So Eduardo, you are a father, right? How many children you have?
We have 2 children.
2 kids.
Antonio is 25. He serves in the National Guard.
As well.
He does. Not full-time, he's a traditional member.
Okay.
Yep. And then Maria just graduated from the University of Minnesota in forest management. She's leaving for Idaho tomorrow for her first job.
So both of your kids are done with college at this
Maria
point?
went to college, and Tony did not go to college.
Okay, but they're adults.
Oh, yes.
They're adults.
They're
now,
adults.
on their own.
They've been on their own for a while. Antonio left when he was 18. He's been on his own ever since, and he's doing well. They're just the nicest people you're ever going to meet.
Oh, isn't that beautiful for you as a dad to say that about your own children? I mean, that is a dream for me. To see my children, they're little.
They're good people.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of that.
Oh, tell me more about what are some of the traits that you see in them that gives you that sense of pride and satisfaction and hope, maybe? Like, these are good people.
I think Jennifer and I, we both have upbringings together. German Catholic family,
Your
farm,
wife.
yeah, raised on a farm in Iowa. My Latino background, Catholic raised. A lot of those,
Collectivist.
a lot of those collective culture backgrounds and faith just kind of all came to bear, and our kids, I think, benefited from that.
They too are people, humans that care about collectiveness, or
They do. Yeah, they just treat people with dignity and respect. That's what more do you want to? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
What more do we need?
We don't need a whole lot more than
We
that.
need that. That's a basic need, I think.
It is, and
So I'm curious about, like, now what family means to you now that your children are grown and have their own lives. What does fathering mean to you at this particular season in your life?
I think my role as a father, as parents, is to advise and guide your children, help them make decisions, help them make, let's say, the right decisions. They have a lot of decisions to make in their lives, right? Where they're going to move next, where they're going to start their careers. I think our role is to advise them, impart our wisdom and experiences to help inform them to make good decisions, right? Whatever decision it ends up being for them. You want to empower them. Exactly.
To make their own decisions, but also to share your wisdom and your lived experience.
And so if they make a decision that you wouldn't make, at least you did your job to show them what you've learned from your life. I think that's our role right now.
Yeah.
But they're going to chart their own lives
they are.
with or without us, right? They are. And I think parents sometimes undervalue the importance of their life lessons. And I think our job is to share that as much as they want to listen to you.
Exactly. You'll know when they've stopped listening.
Well, they kind of tune you out.
Too much, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's our role, right? And we have to remind ourselves as parents that just because they don't make a decision that you would have made, it doesn't make it the wrong decision.
Right. Trusting that, because that is a leap of faith.
Yeah.
I think for us as parents is to, just because something is unknown, not familiar, foreign to a certain degree, doesn't make it bad or wrong or negative. And I think that sometimes, especially like if you're very connected to your cultural values, or sometimes there's some dissonance in terms of what maybe some of the decisions or the values that your children are choosing and living by. And sometimes that can create fear and a sense of lack of control for us as parents. But remembering, right, that just because something looks different or your children's decisions or lives is not equivalent of being bad or wrong. It's just different. But that can be really difficult.
It can be,
for
and I
parents.
understand parents letting go, not so much to control with the influence, but the worst thing could happen is your children don't share with you anymore. Right?
They shut down.
It's
they
like,
don't
well,
even.
since that's a triggering for mom and dad, I'm not going to talk about that. We want them to tell us everything.
Right, and that's our loss as parents.
It is.
Yes.
It is. And you may hear things you don't want to hear, but the reverse is not hearing anything from your kids. And we always hear about parents and kids and how they're not talking to each other anymore. There's, we don't want that for our kids.
Well, and also because as parents sometimes we stop listening to our children. Talking about echo chambers and, just like you just listen to yourself, and we stop listening. Because in listening, there's difference too.
Sure.
And sometimes we don't want to hear what we don't want to hear, but it's important because that's how we build bridges in that relationship so that we can really try to influence and guide our children to the extent that we can.
Well, at some point, your children are starting to teach you.
Yes, you. Are you at that stage right now? Have you
well,
learned
I think
some
they
things
bring awareness.
from your children
They bring awareness
too?
to us. I mean, which I can appreciate because they see the world differently. They do, and so
And they're navigating a different world.
They
a
are
different world than the one you navigated when you were their age too.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'll go back to mentoring. This is another thing. Similarly, if you decide to be a mentor, you'll find in that relationship that suddenly the roles flip and you become the mentee. Kind of like the
In
parents.
that same
the
relationship.
Same like the parents and the kids. All of a sudden, who's teaching who? So mentoring can be powerful
That's
because you
beautiful.
learn.
But
and
isn't that what,
and I've had
that's
that
ideal, right?
Oh, it's
If
wonderful. I've had that experience, and all of a sudden, I think I'm being mentored now.
I'm learning so much. I'm
Yeah.
being inspired by, yeah.
And I think as leaders, we have to remind ourselves we're not done learning. We're not done, and we have to be open to that. That's open to feedback. Feedback is a gift, right?
Is.
It is.
It is.
And so leaders, parents, we need to be open to listening, even though it might be hard to listen to. Yeah.
I am curious now that we're talking about this. When you select, I'm thinking about like the importance of mental endurance, and how sometimes we look for that resiliency, emotional and mental resiliency in others. Say if you're recruiting people, you're hiring, you're thinking about elevating someone to a next role. How important do you think this is in that decision making, and why is it important?
I think the assumption is that you know that person well enough, right? I think to me that's the biggest challenge in that. If you're talking about is that person ready for the next step,
Challenge.
right? Do they have? I think as leaders, how do you lead someone you don't know? Think about that. What does it mean to know someone today? So if you're in a leadership role and you're looking to elevate someone to the next level, the next position, and if they're ready for it, I'd ask you, how well do you know them, right? It's easy to go through work every single day just to have these shallow interactions with people because you're just...
You know someone.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if you really know someone, like how they're wired, their background, the things that make them who they are, you can gauge their ability and their readiness to go to the next level. But unless you don't know that's a challenge, right?
Yes.
It is.
And what would you say, Eduardo, is an important trait for someone to have that maybe shows that capacity for resiliency, for adaptiveness, for mental toughness?
Yeah, well, in a military context, if you've served with someone alongside someone and you've been through some challenging times together, you'll see how well that person responds with you. Yeah, because we have the fortune of being, when we deploy overseas and we're in stressful, like I know my buddies who deploy with me and how well they held up, and it's a test. It's a test, right? In that context, I know how they're wired. In a civilian context, it depends on the work environment, how well you know that person. It's clearly being resilient is everything. But sometimes just a leap of faith and letting that person have their challenges and then coach them through it and mentor them through that, right? Because it's hard to know how a person will respond
in a tough moment.
Situation. Exactly. Whether it's in their personal life and work, people navigate stress and challenges differently.
Differently, because we're all wired different, and also we have different...
But I think leaders have to be open to the fact that if someone is struggling, are you prepared to help them through it, right?
Versus, and how open is someone to allow themselves to be coached? And to be...
It takes both people to make that work. And we know, like that, I always thought the biggest challenge with leadership is that people can be difficult, right? Like I said, we're all wired differently.
We all can be difficult.
We all have our inherent challenges. We do. But a person has to be open to that feedback, right? Have the self-awareness is another challenge, another trait. How self-aware is someone? That's even hard for me.
Oh, I think it's a skill that needs to be developed over time and with intentionality. But something I heard in regards to self-awareness that comes even before self-awareness, and that is contextual awareness.
Oh.
And what that means is that self-awareness has to do with being aware of your own emotions, of how you are understanding, feeling, but so important it is to be contextually aware, meaning that how you are influencing, how well are you reading others, how well are you using your influence in a space where you influence other people as well. So it's both, right? Like you need to be able to take in that feedback, to read other people. Like say you're talking too much, right? That's self-awareness. Okay, I have a tendency to talk a lot. I'm talking about myself here. But there are cues that people are going to give you, right? Like maybe you start cutting people off and you can pay attention to that. Maybe people are dozing off. Maybe they're not as engaged. So that contextual awareness can inform your own self-awareness. Like, ooh, time to.
Yeah, but you have to. That's a very deliberate action, and I always tell people if self-awareness is not your strength, lean on someone to help you with that. You know, in the military, we have a battle buddy. You know, you have a partner in your command team.
You always are working
with
collectively.
you are, but I always, in every business I've ever had, I always ask someone, hey, please be an honest broker with me. If I'm saying or doing something that I shouldn't be doing and I'm not picking up on it, help me with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let you know.
Yes.
Be that awareness that maybe you haven't.
Give them full permission to tell you exactly what they're seeing, right? And be okay with it when you get the feedback. And that's how you can help coach yourself at being more self-aware and picking up on those cues.
Yes.
Yeah.
So give people permission. Ask for that feedback and be humble.
Yeah.
One of the predictors, I think it was one of the predictors of mental toughness in a study they did is humility.
Huh.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not surprising. Humility is so important. And if you think about growth, if you think about development, human growth, if you're not flexible, if you can't tolerate discomfort, if you can't take feedback, you're not humble.
Yeah.
You're not flexible. And that's an important component, which surprised me. Because sometimes we think, oh, humility is like weakness or something soft.
Yeah.
But it's actually completely correlated with mental toughness.
I could totally see that. We talk about servant leadership, and I think humility is a component of that. I do. And people don't associate the military with servant leadership or humility, but there's many dimensions in leadership that makes a military leader. And I think today we're challenged as leaders in how we lead today's newest generation of soldiers, right? They're different. The Gen Z population is different, you know. And as leaders, whether military or civilian, you have to be able to be, your leadership style has to be adaptable. You can't just lead with one tool, right? You have to have many tools to grab, right? Because it doesn't work the same for everyone.
No.
You know? And there's an old military culture and mindset where you just, you know,
one size fits all.
One size fits all and charge the hill, right? But I think that today's
different.
They're different.
Yeah. Definitely.
But you can
parenting too, relationships in
all
general.
of it. Yeah, all of it.
You know, I'm thinking about marriage too. When you've been married for many years, people change. You change.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're not with the same person that you started with, but you have you have to have that capacity.
You do.
To really discover and have that flexibility to go through all those changes that your partner is going to have or that you're going to have along the way. So flexibility, humility, and adaptability is key
Absolutely.
Not only in leadership, but in life.
In life.
Well, this brings me to my last invitation and question, and that is, Eduardo, if you had only 2 pieces of wisdom that you could share with your children in this case, and that is your legacy, that is the 2 pieces of wisdom that you can leave them.
The first one that comes to mind is be true to who you are. Don't compromise your authenticity for someone else. And the second one is just live your life with a purpose.
Eduardo, it's been a pleasure as always to talk to you, to be in your presence, in your energy. I didn't have the best sleep last night, and I was a little bit worried about today's interview because, you know, when you don't rest as well, your brain's a little slower, or your energy is maybe a little not as high. But being in your presence today, talking to you, has brought my energy up, and that's something really lovely. I think that you have that capacity and the power of that influence that you have. So thank you so much for being here today, for being willing to have this conversation with me, and to be open and to share of you with our audience today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I'm thankful, grateful for the opportunity to be here with you today and to share a little bit about me, the person behind the uniform.
Yes.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Eduardo. And por ahora me despido. Espero que hayan disfrutado de esta conversación tanto como yo. Les recuerdo que sigan apoyándonos a través de social media, nuestro Facebook page y Instagram, Historias y Huellas Podcast, al igual que el canal de YouTube, que se sigan suscribiendo para seguir trayendo historias de valor como las de Eduardo, y les agradezco muchísimo y me despido por ahora hasta otra oportunidad.